Hello and welcome to AEF TV in association with Engerati. I'm now joined by Karin Breytenbach, who's part of the National Treasury South Africa. And Karin, we're talking a little bit off air about how the involvement of the Treasury with the sort of energy departments is a key linkage that sort of can make things happen. And you've been a part of creating that type of linkage. If another country were to be looking at the program that's happened in South Africa, and what advice would you give them to try and create a similar link, and how important do you think that link is?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. I think it's incredibly important, and the reason why it is important is if you ever have to credit enhance a program like this, which is a massive program in the South African context, it is always good to have your treasury next to you. If you look at credit enhancement of the buyer of the energy, or the in the event of government default, usually what happens is the Treasury has to stand behind the program to make the lenders and the sponsors much more comfortable with investing in the developing countries. So I think it's incredibly important. The other role that Treasury in South Africa is playing is I'm part of the public-private partnership unit, and we've done PPPs in the past, and we are running this renewable energy program more or less on the PPP principles, where there's a bidding process, an evaluation, and then you're becoming a preferred bidder.
So you can bring your experience with other PPP
infrastructure
type like that, and say, look, here are the lessons we've learned. Here's what's gone wrong, and here's the right way of doing that. Picking up on that point. Because I always believe we kind of learn more from what goes wrong than what goes right.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So again, if someone is watching this and they're starting to consider a PPP model, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think first of all you need to make absolutely sure that you know where you want to go. So in South Africa we've tried an IPP project program before, and we were not very successful. So when we started with this we knew we can't fail. First of all, we've got a problem with enough energy in the country, but secondly, as a country where we would love to have foreign investment, you get one or two chances to be successful, and after that nobody will believe you again. So I think from where I'm sitting, the view was from day one of the objective was from day one to be successful.
And drawing on your experience, and again, you don't have to go into specifics, but what is the one thing that you could maybe sort of highlight where, without knowing what you know now, it kind of made sense at the time, but it didn't work for a particular reason, just to give a little bit of a sense for what people should steer away from?
Well, in all honesty, the one thing that I can say is we decided to change the worldwide phenomenon to have a feed-in tariff to go to a bidding process. I think that was really a good decision. At the time, we were basically crucified for taking another direction, and it also comes from PPPs where things are in a competitive bidding process. So we decided to do that, and then I think that has proven to us that the best price will win. And then secondly, you have to get the best team that you can afford. And if I say afford, I think rather safe on other things, but when you go into these big long-term projects, you have to have the best financial legal, technical advisors. And in South Africa, we've got a specific area, and that's economic development. So we would like to have jobs from the program. We would like to have black economic empowerment, and we want to have community involvement and development in the areas where the projects are. So for us, I mean, those areas are non-negotiable. But good, solid consultants, I think that's your first must-have.
Well, that was the thing that came through in another in the other interview, where again echoing your point, you need advisors, and sometimes it's difficult for governments to actually admit that, look, we need outside help here, because otherwise this is not going to work. So in terms of so I get a sense that you guys are really playing a big sort of advisory role with this program and where it's going. One of the other questions that I wanted to ask is around that feed-in tariff model, because it's one of those things which I think in Germany it really kick-started that whole renewable model. Tell us a little bit more about how that's working in South Africa.
Well, what we decided to do, and it's based on our experience in PPPs, we decided we started with a feed-in tariff, and
which you set. So this is what.
But and then we decided no, it's not exactly what we want to do. So what we then did is we said, okay, we'll put a cap. So you can come in below, you can bid below that cap, but whoever is in the lower than the cap has got an opportunity. Well, they will obviously have an opportunity to be evaluated and then see whether they can be the winners. What we then realized in between the two, our program is a rolling program. So we started with a 3,625 megawatts. The first round was about 1,100, and then another 1,000 and another 1,000 for the between those 2 and between those 3. What we realized in between those 2, when competition really came in, was that the average price dropped, I think, in wind something like 20%, and in solar, PV solar, something like 40%.
So just creating that market dynamic of saying, like, well, here's the feed-in tariff, you can't go beyond, but we want competition to drive down.
And that's how we decided to go. Now, in between those 3 that will open, submissions will be received on the 19th of August. We're going to have another bidding process, but we know now that the prices will come down slowly, which in our environment is extremely important, because we still have got a lot of poor households who need to pay for the electricity. So we're a firm believer of competition.
Yeah, because I mean a market does drive things down and things like that. And I mean, you touched on another point, and just it's just interesting that this program in South Africa is being put up as a look. This is how renewables can play a big part of the mix. What was the driving force, do you think, behind actually saying we need this kind of program? Because my sense is that in South Africa you've got coal reserves and things like that, and there could have been the opportunity to say, well, we've got all this coal, we can just carry on with coal. What was the trigger for saying we need?
I think overall a green economy. We are one of the biggest polluters in Africa, I think. So we are driven by coal, and we have got other big companies also polluting. So a green economy was something that the country has committed to, and we also had what we call a green accord between the government, Labour, and the rest of South Africa, and we've committed to green jobs, green industrial companies to come, etc. So that was a big part of going down the green route. But then obviously we were also in trouble with electricity. I think it was 2009, 2010 when we had blackouts, and I mean the massive impact of that on our economy. It was unbelievable. So we then realized that, listen, we have to change. Well, we have to bring in a private sector and not only having our own utility and a monopoly. So bringing a little bit more competition, bringing in investment, and then having a green part to the mix. So I think that was a great decision. The other thing that I may just want to mention is we've signed already now 47 projects, 28 are in construction, and the last 19 were signed in May. But it means in 47 areas, small towns, and further away from say, Gauteng in South Africa, you've got now developments, and each development has got an economic development package around it.
So it's creating jobs locally and things like
community involvement. Yeah. I mean, you're basically spreading economic development to more rural areas. I think that while we didn't understand it when we started the program, and the real impact of that, I think we are so happy for what we have maybe by chance put into the design, but anyway, it was a great thing that we did.
It's like a pleasant surprise. You're like going, oh, we're seeing little pockets of industry cropping up around this thing.
Yeah, you know what, somebody told me yesterday that one of the people that I've employed is 35 years old and he never had a job. Right. So for the first time in his life, at 35, he has got a job. Now, I mean, what more do you want? So I think starting with our president committing the country to a green economy, to where we are right now, having 47 opportunities with private sector money, I think what a great opportunity.
But that is a great opportunity, and it'd be good to, I'm afraid we're coming to the end of the time we've got here, but it would be great at some point or the other to get a documentation of that sort of radial effect, because a lot of times people just look at one point. They don't look at the entirety of a project and what other effects it's got. So before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you a question, because we've been at AEF now, and you've had some chance to listen to some of the projects. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to turn you into a mini reporter for a second. And if there is one thing that you would say that you have seen that really excites you, that has maybe come out of this conference, or conversations you may have had, what would that be?
You know what? The one thing that I really think we should try and expedite or do better in is regional cooperation. I was put on the spot yesterday by the Minister of Mozambique, saying, what are you doing as South Africa, learning and sharing with us? And I think if we think renewable energy prices must come down, you must think what our neighbors would like to see. And as far as I'm concerned, there is really an obligation on us now, and if I can take that back and say, how can we as a Southern African region work together? And then I think the opportunity to meet with people and understand where they're coming from and what is driving them, their feedback about our program, and our opportunity to learn from their feedback. Those are all great things.
I think that knowledge sharing thing that you just pointed to, I think there is an open door there, because I say that because two of the interviews I've had have voluntarily said, well, we would like to be able to share this and create that sort of collision between academia, real world experience, how to best practice and all that sort of stuff. So that'd be a great thing to make happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, no, I think so too.
So well, let's see whether that can't happen at some point or the other. Karin, thank you very much for your time. We've come to the end of the time we've got here, and thank you very much for watching. So this interview and others are on the AEF website and Gerati and EnergyNet as well. And we hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.